Hi, everyone. I'm Leanne. We filmed Tough Love, and we're going to be having a premiere June 18th. Today we have our DP, Lawrence. We have our editor, Jesse, and we have our colorist, David. And we have me. And we're here to talk about the movie Tough Love. I wanted to start out with some introductions. So I'll introduce myself first, and then I'll pass it off to Lawrence. I'm Leanne. Warm welcomes to everyone. I have produced, I'm also a co-owner of Banished Bird Films, and I've been in the film industry, or I've been in this kind of industry now for roughly 8 years, I believe, starting out with photography. And this is the first feature film I've ever been a part of. So that's me, and I'll pass it on to Lawrence to introduce who you are, how long you've been in the industry, and what role you played for this film.
hmm Yes, I'm Lawrence, and I was the director of photography for Tough Love. I'm not actually in the industry. I do this stuff as more of a hobby, kind of fun thing to do on the side. This was the first feature-length film I've done. Typically, I do shorts, so it was quite an educational experience.
Thank you so much, and we'll go on to Jesse.
Hey, I'm Jesse McCollum. I was about a hobbyist with filmmaking for 10 years, and then I've been almost full-time filmmaking full-time on and off for the last decade.
Fantastic, and oh, sorry.
The editor should have led with that.
Yeah, what's your role? The editor. You've edited it. Last but not least, David.
Hi, I'm Dave. I'm the colorist on this film, and I've been in the film business for about, I don't know, 18 years or so. And I've tried almost all of the jobs on set, and now I'm trying all of the jobs in post-production. And I did coloring on this film.
Is this the first feature you've worked on?
For sure. Yeah, I've never even edited anything this long, I don't think. So this as a colorist for sure, it was a first time for me, first time challenge.
So we're premiering. The film is almost completely done. And I want to start off, we had three pillars when making this movie. One was collaboration, one was fun, and one was learning. And so part of the learning pillar, we wanted to kind of do some deep dives and talk to you guys about what challenges you might have faced, also some of the more fun aspects of making a feature-length film, especially when we have one person who is a little more remote than others, but David lives in Ontario, Jesse lives in BC, and then Lawrence and I live in Alberta. So my first question is actually for Lawrence, and that one would be, were there any particular films that helped you create some, and actually I guess it would be for Lawrence and maybe Jesse a bit, making the shot list in preparation for this movie. Is there anything that you were pulling from to help you with? How did that process work before you started filming?
I guess I'll start off. I guess originally I was slated to be the DP on this project, but um, due to my work situation, I wasn't able to shoot it. And luckily, Lawrence came in and picked up my slack. Um, but up until that point, I had been doing the original shot list, and I was heavily inspired by Steven Spielberg to pull off as many um, one take masters as we could with the film to just move through a sequence and try to, you know, nail the scenes in one shot and then get pickup shots to insert here and there or reverse shots for dialogue sequences. So yeah, that was my biggest inspiration for both efficiency on set and yeah, just hopefully ease of shooting when
Nice.
I was doing the original work.
Nice. And Lawrence, you obviously took over and had to kind of handle everything. And when did you take over? Was it like a month or two, like a month and a half before shooting started?
Yeah, it was pretty close to when it started, so I didn't have a whole lot of time to prep or really put, I guess, my own spin on it. Like I really built off with Jesse had. You and I met quite a bit just to talk a little bit about things. I think for me, it was just keeping things as simple as possible. Simple shots, again, because of the short time length of shooting a film in 10 days, I guess 12 if you include the weekend that we did. It was a lot. It was a lot to do in a short period of time. So trying to keep things as simple as possible, simple shots. Um, yeah, and I think we did it as best as we could, or as best as I could.
Fair enough. Yeah, because it was only 10 days of filming for the main shot. I think we had about 12 days like right in August where we had one day to prep the location that we were shooting and then one day at the end to clean up. But other than that, we had 10 days, which was super, super fun. Now, what was the hardest part about shooting that you can remember on like actually shooting?
Yeah, so on set, actually shooting, the most challenging part was the physical aspect of it. Having to hold the camera for hours on end. You're squatting, you're standing, you're sort of walking around and having to do takes over takes, or retakes and stuff like that. It became very physically demanding, and I felt it by the end of it. Definitely was should have been in better shape, I think. Would have been part of my pre-prep, going to the gym a little bit more just to get prepared more for because the cameras are not super heavy, but they're not super light either. So it's just being able to manage that and be more prepared for that part of it. So that was definitely a challenge.
One of my favorite parts was all the different things, and I think anyone who's like made a film kind of knows that you use different things. So it's just like the light boxes that we use to like put the camera on. Actually, Jesse just made something where he had the tripod on a blanket, and he pulled the blanket like on the tripod to get a really nice shot in a music video, and it just reminded me of all the different awkward positions that you have to be in. And without a break because you did the 10 days straight. So that would be a fun thing for next time is making sure you're hitting the gym appropriately to prep. We did try to stretch and stuff each day and take the appropriate amount of breaks, but there were a few pretty tight days.
Well, and you add to that too that, this is an indie film. It's low budget. So you're working with equipment that you have and, on a bigger, more professional set, you'd have more gear that would kind of support some of that work. So it's not as physically demanding, that we just didn't have. So really relied on, using your body and your own strength to get a lot of this stuff done.
Fair enough. Jesse, did you notice anything in the edit where you were like, that was a long day?
Um, no, I mean, I wasn't super critical of anything that came through. I was actually very impressed with the quality of work given the time restraints and the budget. Um, yeah, I think there's a lot of other films that are made in the same price range with similar limitations, and they don't turn out as good as this. I think that's a big testament to the crew.
Nice. Because during editing, is there one scene that out of the whole movie, you would have been like, this is my favorite scene?
Um, yeah, my favorite one to edit happened very early on, and it's just because there was so much coverage on it. Not that you want to use all the coverage that's given to you, but it's the scene where Ridley is fixing the truck and the grandfather's trying to turn over the engine, and then he comes in, and I was able to craft the scene to start pointing in one direction and then finish off in the other direction so that the wide shot of the family walking to the house made sense instead of jumping the 180-degree line in one fell swoop. and disorienting the audience. So that one came together really nice. I was quite happy with that one. It's pretty slick.
And what would I think this one's probably going to be equally the same. What was the hardest scene to film? And which one was the hardest scene to edit? So I'll give Lawrence first pick at that one. Is what scene was the hardest one for you to film? And why?
Ooh, that's a good question. Um, hmm.
Maybe I'll go to Jesse first and let you
Yeah,
think.
go to Jesse first.
Jesse.
I think the hardest scene to film, or sorry, the hardest one to edit was the finale, unfortunately, out in the woods, just due to lack of coverage. You could tell that like at the end of the shoot, everybody was bagged, even from the BTS footage that I picked up. Before action was called and after action was called, like you could just tell the energy of the crew had been just zapped. Uh, so yeah, that was probably the hardest one, just because um, time had run out at that point, um, and yeah, everyone was exhausted. So I could see why, yeah, the camera wasn't picked up for a couple extra shots here and there.
Thank you. Yes, I remember that day. Everyone was cold and a little tired. We probably should have had that scene a little earlier in the week of shooting, which was recommended to have the more important scenes moved to the beginning, so you'd have your actors like energized, things like that. But due to certain scheduling conflicts, because some of the actors weren't able to make it for every day, I think there was only one actor who was on set every day. And everyone else, we kind of picked scenes when it made sense. Sonia, the other co-owner, as well as the other producer, she actually put together the schedule based off of everyone's availability, which was pretty extensive because again, low budget. Not everyone was able to take time off work and do different things for the film. But that's a good note. That I wish we were able to do is like have your more important scenes done when everyone is full of energy and when you are able to have the time to do the extra filming for those scenes. It was definitely a note that I put down in the learning column for me was definitely have more time for like some of those really important scenes. Lawrence, I'll throw it back to you if you have one now.
Yeah, I still nothing really pops into my mind about what was really difficult. I think there was conditions that made some of the shoots more difficult. Like I remember that one weekend, I think it was the first weekend we were shooting up in the field, and it was so hot. It was just the heat made it very difficult just to keep that momentum and just, do as best as we could in that. And then probably the other one is probably filming in the room, the bedroom, because it is so small and there's only a certain amount of angles and things you can do in the bedroom. So trying to be as creative as possible in that small little space was a bit of a challenge.
Fair enough. Dave, when it came to color correcting, so we had to like have the edit done, everything was locked, and then we loaded up a hard drive and mailed it to you. Um, I think you have that one right there. There we go. Evidence that happened. Oh, I can't hear you.
Oh, Dave is muted.
I'm sorry.
Hey, their
I
hands up.
coughed earlier.
Rev.
Here's the movie right here.
That's
There it
the
is,
movie.
people. It's all
Um,
in there.
we have two. I think that Jessica
It's the
actually,
only copy. The
sorry,
only
the
copy in the
the,
existence.
the
Oops.
only copy. Could you walk us through the process of enhancing like color grading is something that not a lot of people I think know technically on. Can you walk us through the impact color grading can have on like emotional scenes or even in a film? This was your first time doing this one, but you've done a lot of shorts and you've done a lot of color grading. So what was your process stepping into this feature? Because I know that there was a point where you had to kind of stop and then go back to adjust certain things.
Yeah, I struggle with this even on short pieces. in that I'll start grading a shot. Let's say I'll get really into it and I'll dial in on this shot, and I'm like, wow, I've really graded this shot well. And then I'm like, what's the next shot? And the next shot, I'm like, I don't know how to make this one match that one. And that is basically all color grading is like getting really excited about one shot, moving on to like an insert, and then being like, that doesn't, I can't, it doesn't feel like it's the same piece. So I think this being such a long film, like, well, long, it's a feature film, it's normal length, but because it's a long piece, it was the challenge for me was to make something that felt like the whole movie belonged together in the grade. And in the grade, also to make that feel subtle enough that you don't notice the grade. I didn't want to make like a super, super stylized grade, even though I think I really added quite a few stylized elements to it. I I'd max out the sliders and then I'd bring them back and bring them back until they were at like 10% or 5%, that kind of thing. So that they were subtle changes. Um, but yeah, that was I think for me the new challenge that I had to overcome was trying to make it all feel cohesive and to give it style and to make each scene feel like it could be the best version of itself. And so um, that was that was kind of my approach. And I think in color grading, like you were talking about, like people might not have a lot of experience with it, but it's such a subjective thing. I think it's not like there's like one way to color grade anything. I used the most basic tools to grade this film, and I also used very advanced techniques for specific shots and the overall look. But yeah, it is kind of what you put into it. And what's great about color grading, the funnest thing about it, is there's so many ways to achieve what you want to do. There's lots of tools in the program. You can use all of them to kind of do the same thing.
What program were we using? Just kidding. It's DaVinci. We were editing off DaVinci. That's where the rough cut was. That's what is on Jesse's screen currently, and that is the system
I
that
see it.
Dave used to color grade. Not that not that we're getting sponsored or anything. I don't know if you have to say that, but I've seen that where it's like it's not sponsored by. But anyways, we can move on straight from that.
That's just for credibility. No, like we want to be sponsored by DaVinci. Don't just say we're sponsored and hopefully that money comes in.
Okay. That's what we'll do. Um,
We're not journalists.
I'm gonna ask you the same question that I asked these guys, which was, what was your favorite part of the movie to grade? Like, what scene
Mm,
stood out to you where you were
mhm.
like, delicious, give me more of
Yeah.
that?
My actual favorite part of to grade, where I went kind of the hardest was very beginning, because I really wanted to kind of try something with the grade there, and I maxed out a lot of sliders on that one. I tried to make it feel very ethereal and very bright, like overexposed, without being overexposed. So I tried to like just move all of the picture up into like a very bright space,
Are you talking about?
and that yeah, it's a flashback, but it's like at the beginning. It's like over the reeds and everything, and matching the DJI footage, like the drone footage, with the cinema camera footage was a bit of a challenge, but I think I figured it out. And yeah, it was fun to just sort of like kind of go for it with it, like have a reason because it's a flashback, because it's kind of like an ethereal scene, and there's like lots of dream sequences throughout the film, or like
Tec-
flashback.
yeah, I was gonna say
Yes,
technically it was a dream.
yeah,
Flashbacks are later in the movie, but the opening one is a dream.
yeah, I liked that because it gave me license to kind of do something I wouldn't normally do. And because it's a film, what's really cool about it's hard to explain this, but like when you shoot a commercial and you grade a commercial, you're kind of like each of those shots you're kind of aiming for like perfection. Like you're putting power windows, which is just like a highlighted box of what you're going to make brighter or darker on like every object in that shot. And all those things are tracked, and you're just creating like kind of like a perfectly like surreal exposed image usually when you're doing a lot of commercial work. But for this one, I was able to get more gritty and just take the look at the image as an overall settings choice. So like as I'm painting with one big brush across the scene and just trying to do that in a way that doesn't feel like, oh, there's color grading happening. I don't want to make it like it's blue or it's yellow. I want to make it feel like you don't really notice it, but you feel it. And I thought that that was really fun to do.
Nice. I love that. As somebody who's not very good at color grading, I know that like you three are way better at color grading than I am. And obviously, Dave, I think you are probably the best at color grading. It does blow me away a little bit, kind of same with audio, like their ability to kind of because you don't really like you were just saying, if you are noticing the color grade, it kind of throws you out. And so there's a trick where you're just trying to make it as flowy as possible while also giving it style. But as soon as you notice something is happening, then you might have gone too far or not far enough, depending on what you were doing. But I wanted to have a little bit of a conversation because this is our first feature that I think we've all a feature length film. What is different? We've all worked on shorts before. This was in mind for the theaters. Was there any steps or approaches that were made with the theater in mind? And I'll start back down with Lawrence to give that to him, knowing that this was going to be on a theater as well as on like home TVs opposed to, phones or something like that. Was there anything different in how you were filming on the day?
I don't think there was anything that I would have done differently from a short to this film, at least not the way I approached it. Because I think we all hope that even if it's a short, it ends up on the big screen at some point. So um, it's really just trying to make the best visuals, the best looking film, whatever it is from what you're working with. And that was the approach that I took.
That's super fun.
Very fun.
Jesse?
Yeah, I'd say a couple things. The aspect ratio, just for like technical purposes. Yeah, I made that 2:3:5 to 1 widescreen. It gave me a lot of ability to reframe shots. Not so much reframe, but just adjust the headspace. Gave me a lot of flexibility on that to make sure that eye lines were looking correct and whatnot. And then, yeah, and then as far as editing and a short film, you're usually trying to make stuff happen like as fast as possible. Whereas with the feature film, there's room for scenes to breathe and for characters to have moments that feel deserved. So it was all about just trying to, oh, Dave's a plant now. Squirrel. Yeah, it was just a matter of trying to make sure that, yeah, moments were earned and that they felt like they had space. And then as well, paying attention to the pacing of certain scenes where it's okay, this is a slow scene, now we can breathe. And then, okay, the scene that I want the audience to be more anxious and whatnot. So then you cut things a little faster. You snap back and forth between reaction shots a little quicker than in a more emotional scene where you might hang on those, little looks back and forth a little more.
And I
And
think, oh,
actually, no, I'm done. I'm done. I'll save my thing for another question. It might come up again.
I was gonna say, and I think that this question was inspired by Dave kind of explaining the difference between the commercials and the things, but was there any approach that you took a little bit differently? I think you might have already talked a little bit about it, but
For me,
yeah, sorry, for Dave
yeah,
specifically.
yeah. I tried to imagine, like on my computer screen, a lot of the movie is like shot in a very like one or two stops underexposed sort of like vibe, which is very David Fincher sort of like low contrast, low exposure sort of stuff. But I tried to push stuff a little bit here and there because I've had this before when you do projection, the contrast is always lower and like lower exposure in low contrast can feel you can lose a lot of like the detail. And so I tried to predict, I think, what it might look like in projection to brighten it up and increase contrast a little bit to sort of compensate for that, while still trying to maintain all of that vibe that comes with that sort of like one stop under, two stops under sort of feeling. especially in the day for night stuff, which we can talk about that later if you want to, because I've never color graded day for night before, and I sort of like built on what Jesse had already done because I didn't really know where to start.
Yeah, I remember you asked me to just take a quick stab at um, some color for each scene, just to establish
Mhm.
what's supposed to be day, what's supposed to be night, and then that way you're not
Yeah,
flipping back to a script. You're just okay. This is what Jesse.
yeah.
Good to go.
I would like to say that we actually made some changes on filming day when we realized the weather was being super challenging, and we didn't perfectly write down the changes because we had a lot more shots that were supposed to be day for night. And we had in the script, everything was kind of calculated, stuff like that. And then on the day, Lawrence, Sonia, myself, and Amy were kind of just looking at the scripts. And I actually remember like Lawrence, Amy, and Sonia being down in the basement, kind of prepping and planning for the day's shots. But
Mhm.
I don't know, Lawrence, did we write down what changes we had made for the day to night?
Unless Amy did, I don't think we did. It was pretty fast paced, so we were trying to pivot at the moment and trying to make decisions, which we probably should have been a little bit better at capturing and keeping record of. Just because things were so bright on one day and then so dim on another, and then just like it was difficult. And thinking that, when you shoot, you're trying to shoot for the edit and think of how that'll look, and things just didn't look like they would look or port over very well to a night scene. So trying to pivot some of that stuff. And then again, just within the whole scheme of the short timelines and what we can do and make it look feasible and make it look realistic. So
Yeah, and I remember we had like 2 or 3 days that came in with the smoke. Because we were gonna get some drone footage and some different B-roll shots during one of the lighter days because we had a festival that was happening at the same time and we had some of our actors and crew members who were off on that festival. So we had some lighter days and we were going to pick those days up with some additional B-roll stuff like that, but there was thick smoke that rolled in and was like, actually, you don't get any extra B-roll because there's too much smoke in the atmosphere for you to get any clear shots. So that was super fun and rude of Mother Nature, but let me see. I have a bunch of notes here and I can't remember what I was going to say to you guys, so let me just check out my notes for a second. Something about visions. What was the most surprising or unexpected, rewarding part of working on Tough Love, for each of you? And so I'll start with that. The unexpected part for me was we had some last minute additions to the crew, kind of co-doing something. So Sonia as the director, producer, and co-owner, and then myself as the key grip and kind of assistant director. Um, I was worried that personalities might clash. I've never had so many actors on a set before, a plus crew. And there were a lot of new people who hadn't used certain gear before. And we were able to kind of go through step by step how to use that gear and how to do the different lighting. And there was one day where Lawrence and I were able to kind of slow down and actually talk to some of the crew about why we were making the decisions that we were and why we were trying to light it a certain way, especially when we were pivoting. Because the first few days was a lot of Lawrence and I just kind of making decisions because he would set up the camera and then I would be doing the lights. But it was really cool getting to kind of be in charge of all that kind of stuff. And everyone was so respectful, so kind, and asked questions, but also just wonderful to work with. And I can't think of a single time where anyone actually like really lost their cool. We had some tense moments, you're filming for 10 days straight and some of the days were pretty long, but we didn't have any like actual blow-ups. There was nothing that happened that was super crazy. And that was kind of surprising. I kind of went in, I'm always like a prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And it really truly was the best. Like we didn't have any issues with personalities, and that was super fun for me. It was wonderful. And because I think
Mhm.
Lawrence, you and I had only worked together one time before this.
yeah.
Yeah, so That was fantastic. But that's what I would say is that all the personalities meshed really well and that through the long days, like we didn't have anyone say anything super crazy, which I expected like at least one time someone to do something. Maybe it was me and no one told me. Oh no. I'm
No,
just
no, I was
kidding.
just gonna say
They never
my
were.
most rewarding part was your very organized, well detailed, and thoughtful email. Mhm. Thumbs up.
Lawrence.
I think my experience was similar to yours, especially coming on late to the project. I really wasn't feeling super prepared, and it's a big project. Not that I felt like a lot of pressure, and I'm pretty laid back, but there was pressure, and I just didn't know how it was going to go. And I think considering everything and considering all the limitations and considering you and I were fairly new at working together. I hadn't worked with a lot of those people at all, didn't even know them, that things kind of came together quite well. And I think just the fact that we finished it was pretty not surprising, but it was a good feeling. Like it was like we actually did it, 10 days, 12 days. It was pretty ambitious. And I think, yeah, actually finishing it is pretty cool. And yeah, it's a good feeling.
Jesse?
Um, my favorite thing was my assistant editor. She was it was really nice to have an assistant editor. Um, yeah, no, it was Leanne was my assistant editor. She put together all the roughs for me, which was really nice and saved me from having to do that initial organizing, especially since I was working full time in the pipeline. So I'd work 12-hour days and then I'd go to my hotel or Airbnb wherever I was staying that day or week and yeah, work 3, 4 hours in the evening on doing editing. And despite that crazy schedule, yeah, never missed a deadline. So that was a win-win.
I was kind of blown away. Sometimes we would be video chatting and I would see your hotel setup and I was just like, oh, this is how movies are made.
Boom, 2, 3 days. Yeah.
It
Yeah,
was incredible. Awesome. Dave?
I think I was struggling like I always do when I'm dealing with multiple scenes, and those scenes have to feel like they live together. And like again, not to beat a dead horse, but that's my big challenge on everything that I color grade. And shooting too. Sometimes like you can shoot something and one part will be more dynamic than another, and then you're like, it all has to be cohesive. And I think that when I finished it, I had sort of made every scene the brightness levels I wanted, the kind of color vibe I wanted, but it didn't yet feel, it felt like different tiny movies attached to each other, like each scene. And so it wasn't, so then I created an adjustment layer on top of everything. And I started to play with like what values can I adjust on everything almost. There's a couple breaks in that adjustment layer that change here and there, but mostly overall, what can I change on everything to sort of make this all feel like it belongs together? And I was playing around for a long time with that, but like there were so many options. I won't go into all the technical details. Um, but it wasn't until I picked kind of like a North Star of like, what could I make this feel like? And I was talking to Jesse about this earlier. There's a movie called Strange Darling that came out last year. It's shot on film. So, a very, very super saturated looking movie and very grainy and gritty and colorful and that kind of thing. And the film is also like, to me, it's like a Western because it's a lot of outdoor landscapes. It's like, it's a few people's, dramatic problems in a couple of small spaces kind of thing with these big vistas. And so I wanted to also sort of reference a little bit of like, say like No Country for Old Men sort of grittiness in it too. And so I sort of tied that movie and Strange Darling together, and I started to move the sliders in those directions. And once I did that, I'm like, oh, this all feels like it's the same. Like it felt quite bookended by the look. So Once that thread was woven through the scene, it felt really good to me. It was very satisfying. Once I had that, it was like I just like sort of sat back and I kept scanning through the whole movie. I'm like, yeah, that looks like it belongs. That scene looks like it belongs. Oh, okay. I think we're there. So
It's funny when you brought up Strange Darling, and I had finished editing the film before I'd watched Strange Darling, and watching it, I was like, wow, like this could be like a really low budget movie. Like it had a
hmm
to it, but it was shot
hmm
in a way that it's like it could have been, you know, people in a very similar situation to us just going out and getting it done.
yeah,
Uh,
totally.
I felt that way watching it, and being kind of reminded of uh, the Tough Love movie. And then it's funny that you would watch it and then be like, "That's the look I'm
Like
going."
reference that. Yeah. I do get really inspired when I watch any movie, even if it's a big budget movie, but it feels like its essence is obtainable. It's like that movie could have been made for $10 and it'd be almost as good, you know? So I like movies like that a lot. They get me excited.
Thank you.
Actually, I have a question for Dave, if I could hijack for a second.
Please.
A little context behind the question. Dave and I and Leanne used to work at a company together, and Dave brought forward an organization system for our filing and things like that. So a hard drive structure, and then whenever we're editing on timelines and whatnot, Dave definitely took me from like the Lost in the Woods editor that I always was to the organized editor that I am today. So I was just wondering, Dave, like accepting the hard drive, looking at the footage and things like that, was there anything I could have done differently to streamline the process further from?
No, I looked at it. I think where almost everything was, and it was all trackable, obtainable, and I was able to use your own file structure to make more files. So that's pretty cool. And nowadays, oh, did we already do like pieces of advice for young filmmakers? Did
No,
we
that
cover that
is going to
already?
be after. Actually,
All
it's
right,
funny.
I'll save my answer.
My next thing was going to be what's one thing you learned from each other during this project? So that kind of, thank you so much, Jesse, for naturally being perfect. Um, is there anything, Jesse, that you learned from this or even from Lawrence's like shooting style or working with Sonia, myself, that you'll bring kind of with you moving forward? Or is there anything that you want to like in any direction?
Yeah, no, I'd say just yeah, always have an assistant director or an assistant editor. That way, when things go awry, you can always just roll the blame downhill.
Good, good.
Right.
Yeah, no, lovely. No, that's I'll keep that for the next movie. Make sure you have that structure in place. That's nice. That's nice. Lawrence, is there anything that you learned? Oh wait, Jesse,
Oh
was
yeah,
that was the joke one.
I don't think that I can think of anything that I particularly learned that was a eureka moment per se.
Fair enough. Lawrence?
Um, yeah, I don't like you're talking about from this group of people, like what we kind of learned from each other kind of thing. Like, because I haven't really had an opportunity to interact a lot with, Dave and Jesse. I interacted with you quite a bit. Um, so this is kind of good. This is a good way to learn and, definitely open to feedback. But I think, just from you and I working on set and just having that support, because you were there to sort of back up, like as a camera operator and kind of help with some of that stuff, especially because it was physically exhausting at times. So that was a great asset is to have that partner when you're doing this kind of stuff for such a long time is to have, because it's kind of a backup too. So you kind of almost want to have a backup because if I just couldn't keep going, the film just wouldn't get done. So that's probably a big learning. But I think because this is somewhat of a new experience for me and still learning my style and still figuring out what it works, how it works together, working with a big team and stuff, I think I have lots of room for learning and growth still. And this was a good opportunity to start learning some of that stuff. So I'm really excited to see how it all came together and how it looks. Because I think even from that, that'll teach me some stuff about how it was edited, how it was color graded, and how it was all pulled together.
Would because this was probably one of the first times that you were going and you were capturing somebody else's vision. Because Sonia had a huge amount of information, like a lookbook and everything for you to kind of follow off of and to make sure that you were getting the shots that she really wanted for this film. Um, how was that? Because have you done that before, or are you normally kind of like,
I kind of do my own thing, so I
yeah,
kind of know what I want. So it was definitely different. And then, unfortunately, again, I'm going to go back to just the prep time. There wasn't enough time to really engage with her to figure out what she really wanted and um, visually what she wanted, but also too as a new director, and this is kind of new for her as well. A lot of decisions were made on the set just because things weren't going to work out the way we thought they were, so we had to pivot again to do some things a little bit differently. Um, so it's great to have the best laid out plans, but you also have to be prepared to kind of shift in doing what you're doing on the day of. So, but I think overall, having those conversations just to figure out what she wants and on the set, making sure that we're capturing what she wants on set and it meets what she's looking for in terms of the story, then I think that's a success.
nice. I love that. And that moves us to uh our wrap up. Because where's our time? Yeah, so we're on to our wrap up, where we're gonna wrap things up. So Leanne, ask each guest to share their hopes. No. Nope, we're not gonna do that. Nope, not that. Let's see, where is it? Yeah. So open discussion about collaborative narrative filmmaking, but I wanted to really touch on advice for aspiring filmmakers like looking to tackle their first feature. Some information about this one here. And I still haven't been able to find anything, so if I'm wrong, I would love for anyone to tell me a feature film that has been made in Grand Prairie. I have reached out to people. I haven't been able to find one myself. So this might be one of the first feature films that were created, filmed, like main actors, everything is in Grand Prairie, which is fantastic. I would have assumed that there would have been a feature length film made here already. There's been documentaries, there's been like a lot of different things that have been made here in northern Alberta, but there, to my knowledge, hasn't been a feature length film. And I'll share a little bit with the challenge, which was finding locations, reaching out to people. We brought on, and I won't share too much actually, because we're doing a producer one as well, where we're going to go in depth to how we kind of laid everything up before and how it was organizing everything before the shoot. So I'll leave that for there. Um, Now I can't remember. Oh yeah, aspiring filmmakers. So one thing that I would say is the best advice, which is the Nike advice, which is just do it. um, there's like a lot of people who will say, "Oh, it's so much money and so much time," and it is. It's all those things. Yeah, so I would say that is my biggest piece of advice is just start doing it because this movie was built on those three pillars, the collaboration, the fun, but also the learning. And so this is our first movie. Hope to God hope to fuck it's not the last one.
Yeah.
So we can keep doing this and learning how to be more efficient and how we can actually pay people what they're worth and like doing all those things. And then getting involved with the community so that they know who we are, what we do, and our process. So just go out and do it, no matter what equipment you have and know-how, because the first one is not going to. I don't know of any movies where the first one was like, boom,
Clerk,
huh?
clerks.
You know what, Jesse? Your mind truly blows me away with your memory. One thing that you guys might not know about Jesse McCallum is his infinite space on like he knows directors, camera operators, movies, when they were made, why they were made, if the idea was brought up while somebody was taking a shit. Like he knows literally every detail. Somehow it honestly makes me so
Hard drive is
impressed.
pretty full. It's starting to
Yeah,
do rewrite mode now. So
yes. Gotta switch to solid state
yeah,
on the Internet McCallum database.
if I could get like a cloud for my brain, that would be sweet. So I could just swap out information as needed.
Lawrence, what advice would you give aspiring filmmakers, especially in the DP section? Like, I want to keep where we're, or actually, you know what, whatever, not in the DP section, just in general for aspiring filmmakers.
Well, from my own experience, it really goes back to what you just said, is just kind of do it. There's lots, yeah, there's lots of opportunities now to participate in film challenges. And that's how I got started, was the 48-hour film challenges. And at the time, I didn't really have the equipment, so I just found a group, put my name out there, attached myself to a group, found I liked it, and then just start working from there. And from a camera perspective, there's so many pieces of technology that we have at our hands now, like phones and cameras that are not super expensive either. And it's just a matter of taking those, come up with an idea, and just start making something, do something, figure it out. There's lots of resources that are free through YouTube, which that could be good or bad. But there's just lots of places that you can find that information just to get started. And that's the best way to do it, is just, and that's how I did it, was just learn by doing. And that's probably the best advice I could give someone. Yeah.
Was there a particular film challenge group organization that you first were involved with?
It's a mouthful.
Yeah. You want me to say it out loud? Prima Region Independent Media Arts Association. I think I
Thank
got
you.
it.
Thank you.
Video.
Prima for sponsoring our Zoom calls. So thank you so much, Prima.
Woo, thank you, Prima.
Well, and I'll add to that too, like, yeah, I got to say thanks to Prima, because a lot of this stuff has happened because of them. And I even was part of the board for 1 year too. So there's lots of opportunities that just arise from just doing things, just participating, take advantage of opportunities when they arise. And don't be shy about just trying things and making mistakes. That's how you learn, and that's how you get better, and that's how you kind of figure out what you want to do, what you like, what you don't like, and just how you move forward. Whether you're interested in this as a career or even just as a personal hobby like myself, it's great fun.
Love
Mhm.
that. Jesse?
Yeah, just adding on to what Lawrence was saying, great piece of advice is done is better than perfect. You can, and that applies to every part of the process. If you're a filmmaker, like and if you're in the writing process, you can be stuck there for forever trying to make your project perfect. But filmmaking is a collaborative process. Just get your stuff as good as you can before you have to move on to the next state. And other people will come along and they'll help improve your work, hopefully. Because yeah, it's a collaboration. Just be good to people. Learn to work with other people. Let your ideas be flexible, because there's always improvements around the corner. That can get a little dangerous, though. It's a double-sided blade where yeah, you can get lost in the woods, so to speak. But yeah, with anything, done is better than perfect. You do your project. It's a learning experience. Hopefully, you're making mistakes, because if you're not making mistakes, something's wrong. And yeah, then you learn from those mistakes. Everything's an education. And with filmmaking, you can't think about like, oh, I lost $250 on that film, or $500 or $50, whatever your investment was, because it's all just paid education. You go out, you make friends. Uh, some stick around, some go the other way. But as far as doing this filmmaking thing full time, it's really, you got to have stamina to do it full time. Uh, it's not a foot race. It's a marathon, I guess, which is also a foot race. I don't know. Triathlon. It's a triathlon. You got to be good on a bike and in the water, and good in running shoes. But yeah, there's a lot to it, and there's a lot to learn. And there's stages too, where you can be stuck at stages, and then eventually you find yourself, just one day something new clicks and you're at that next level. It could be that completed a project that challenged you in a certain way. It could be that you met somebody that taught you some new things and challenged you in ways that you never expected. Um, Whether that's in a good way or a bad way, the projects can't always be sunshine and rainbows. There's always going to be difficult days. But yeah, I don't know. It's maybe me saying a lot to say nothing, but that's that's my advice.
Oh, it was beautiful, and I loved listening to every single word. Uh, Davy?
My piece of advice from my perspective on this film for brand new filmmakers is download DaVinci Resolve for free, and start there. Get your start there. Don't edit on anything else. Start there because, and there's a good reason for it. Every editor that you use, any editing program, NLE, you can make the same thing on everyone, even iMovie. We could have made this whole movie on iMovie if we really wanted to. But Resolve is a professional program that is free, and you can jump back and forth from editing to color grading to sound mixing to visual effects, all at this. Just so if you have ADHD, if you get bored with what you're doing, you can move from one thing to the next, and it makes the whole thing a joy. And there's so much to dig into and so much to learn. I've been using Resolve since 2010, and I they keep bringing out new features, and I keep finding old features that I just have never used before. So it's just like it's a big ocean to dive into. It's very fun, and it's more intuitive than you think it is. You could probably watch 3 videos and be proficient enough to just sort of like maneuver through the program. And I think that's a great place to start. Oh, I give myself a thumbs up. um, and that, yeah, I think that's a great place to start for people getting into the post production side of things. And starting there is going to make your life easier and also cheaper because it's so free. And to build on what Jesse was saying, if there was a part two, I would say focus in on the part of the job that you love. And it doesn't have to be a feature film for you to enjoy working in the video business. You can make a corporate video and sometimes just letting someone to make them look good or whatever, navigating some circumstance or technical difficulty and creative problem solving is a really fun thing to do in any circumstance. So, make music videos, make corporate videos, make commercials, make some money, maybe, and also make some films. Do all of the above. Super fun.
I love that. I actually just realized that for all the people who aren't watching, wait, no, for all the people who are watching who don't know me, the way I got into filmmaking because of Jesse actually. I was going out and shooting some photography, and I didn't show up with any of the proper equipment, and he was just like, she doesn't have any of the proper equipment. And so he came over and was like, here's some proper equipment. And I was like, oh, that's lovely. And then was like, I'm doing a frightening, and it was for Prima actually. And
The 40-hour film festival.
Yes.
yeah, and the crazy thing is that's where I met Dave. And actually I went to his house and met his wife and met a few other people in Fort St. John in the film industry, which then led me to my job working with those guys in Fort St. John. And then when I came to Grand Prairie, I wanted to connect with more people. And so then I went and I joined the board. I was on the board for Prima, where I met, well, you guys can't see. Oh, wait, you can. I'm recording my screen, so you'll be able to see where I'm seeing. And then there's Louwrens, and that's also where I met, yeah, Louwrens. And we made a, oh, wait, no, Jeff, yeah, there we go. We're good. And we did, one second, just to casually.
Oh, let's see it.
It's where we did
Wow.
Remolded, and that's where I met him. So I met all of you guys actually, technically through Jesse, but through Prima because I didn't know about Prima until I met Jesse. And that's just a fun fact.
I think
There's
what you're talking about is the snowball effect. You start one thing and then it leads to the next thing, and then you're a giant snowball later.
that was a long-winded way of saying like just go out and do it.
Mm,
You show up with the wrong equipment, meet the right people, hopefully, and then keep saying yes to different opportunities, which ties in almost everything that you guys said. And then to put a nice bow on it, download DaVinci, get the paid version. No,
Uh,
no.
more,
It's
I wouldn't even
like
recommend
300 bucks.
the paid version.
300 bucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have the paid version and I don't even use the paid um, assets,
Parts.
the paid tools. Because they're mostly all wrapped up in the special effects thing, which if you're doing special effects full time, you're not doing it in DaVinci.
You might be.
When I bought Final Cut, it was $1,500 in the year 2006 or something like that. So it's things have gotten more free.
Yeah, I think I got Final Cut on sale in 2009, I want to say, and it was like $600. And I
Mhm.
for a while, and then Adobe came out, and I used that. And yeah, like you, Dave, I've used just about all the editing software, and I'm very happily living in DaVinci land,
Oh yeah.
where all things, and it's just yeah, it's got a ton of great tools. There's no need to use
Happy
any.
place.
Don't buy it. Just use the free version. Lawrence, what have you edited off of?
I use DaVinci Studio.
That's all you've used?
Yeah, other than maybe like in the late 90s, whatever was free at that time. I don't even remember what that was, but making dog videos and home videos. But
Sweet.
no, but ever since I've been doing like some of this more short film stuff and all of that kind of thing, it's always been on DaVinci.
Awesome. All right. So then to just
We're gonna
reiterate,
get sponsored.
yeah, get DaVinci. Do your get a phone or anything, do your project, and then as Jesse said, done is better. What did you say?
Yeah, done is better than perfect.
Done is better than perfect. So then and then you got to put it somewhere and show it to people. Um, ideally.
Just to
So,
say,
oh,
done is better than perfect. That's not my line. That's a Peter McKinnon line, another Canadian filmmaker, content creator, individual. But he said it, and I loved it, and I ran with it, and it's helped me succeed in this industry to a degree. So it's nice.
awesome. So I'm going to open up the floor for any additional things that you guys might want to say, any questions that you have for each other.
Well, I think we go a lot longer, like questions I had about, just from their perspective on how I did as the cinematographer for this film and how it worked for them and, you know, what worked for them and what didn't, just like that kind of feedback stuff. But that could be a whole other conversation outside of this meeting. But I would be really curious though, just to get that kind of feedback.
Well, kind of like what I said before, the film as a whole, sort of it felt like it had reference for me, even though I don't think we had much of a conversation about like what films you might have like been thinking about or where your intuition came from for a lot of it. But for me, the film and part of it is the setting, but also like the subject matter felt like sort of like a modern retelling of a Western meets kind of like a Quentin Tarantino movie or something like that. And it had uh, some pretty strong, like I think, aesthetic references, especially in a lot of the outdoor scenes. That I felt like it was that sort of like threaded like a visual element to it. I liked that. I liked sort of what, like, yeah, what you did with all of that to sort of like tie the movie together through like a full aesthetic arc. Um, the yeah, for me as personally, just the more challenging stuff was like day for night stuff as just a color grade greatest who hasn't really done that before. So um, working with that in the grade, I ended up building off of what like a lot of what Jesse had already done, and then just using kind of every trick in the book I could think of. But anyways, yeah, I liked what you did. I would be curious, and to throw the question back at you as to like, was there any references that you were thinking about while you were making the movie, or was it just like intuition that came from somewhere else personally?
It's probably a lot of just intuition and just kind of natural feel, but I do like I'm sort of drawn to a lot of films that are shot outdoors. Like when I was doing some uh sort of lookbook creation of films. Things like The Devil's Rejects, I like the look of that. There's some films I don't even know the names, but there were like very picturesque wide shots of
Mhm.
like prairies and fields and just that kind of feel. Like I'm kind of drawn to that. And I think in particular for this, just because of the setting, that was the kind of stuff I was looking at. And I'm not great with names or remembering movie names and stuff, but I think I function a lot by just sort of intuition. Does it feel right? Does it kind of look right? And then because I draw into like horror movies, that's the kind of stuff I like to make. I kind of go darker with things,
Mhm.
shooting darker, and that's kind of the approach I took. But yeah, I think it's just kind of fly by the seat of my pants, especially with this project. And just does it feel right? Does it look right? Is it
Mhm.
pretty? That kind of stuff.
Cool. Yeah, you can tell you live there. Like I assume a lot of that intuition comes from like seeing these vistas like, around you on the regular. It must bring a lot of inspiration
Mhm.
for the look and the vibe of some of these scenes.
Yeah, definitely.
Jesse?
Um, yeah, no, I thought that your consistency was very good throughout. I know in the past when working with other cinematographers and I'm doing their editing and I'm like, oh, so much stuff is out of focus, and not just that they're racking focus trying to find their focal point. It's just like the shot's out of focus, which happens sometimes. And like that's one of my favorite things in 90s movies. You'll be watching and they'll be like, oh, the focus puller missed his mark and the ears are in focus, but not the eyes. But that was the best take emotionally. But with this film, yeah, I don't think I recall any shots being out of focus where I was like, oh, that's gonna get left out. So that was good. The lighting was fine. Ran into the same issues as Dave, and so that affected some of the cuts that I would do. Where for day for night, I didn't want to utilize some of the shots that had too much window in, and so then I'd be trying to crop out where you'd see the windows in the barn. So I'd just say like next time you do day for night in a barn, just maybe tape some garbage bags over the windows or something. Find a way to black them out. Um, and then yeah, and then just light from one direction. Um, but yeah, other than that, thoroughly impressed given the constraints of the project. Um, yeah, I think that if we all get together for another project, it's just they're going to get better and better every time we go for an outing.
Tough for love.
Yeah, tougher love.
Yeah.
I like that. And then I would just add to that because I did the edit, and it was kind of wild because I was there for every shot, and I was helping out with some of the filming. And then when I got to the edit and I had the script in front of me and I had the breakdown and everything, and I was starting to put some scenes together. Um, and this isn't necessarily actually like a reflection on you, but it is for the day. Like it's just making those more robust notes. Like, why didn't we get that shot? Like, I know that we had those discussions. I was there in the room for the most part when we had those discussions, but I was like, why did we miss this one? And what am I supposed to put in its place? And so I was putting the rough together, and I was just like, would have been nice if and Amy did as probably as many notes as possible. Like she had some arrows. She put the new shots, like every new shot that we made, she put it like down below on the shot list when we did pivot and we changed things up. But it would probably like for editing purposes, it would have been nice to be like, oh, just using the same numbers or coming up with a system where when you strike a certain shot, that was actually like, or even having it highlighted where it was like, this is an important shot for the sequence. And then if you remove that shot, you need to know where it's going to be going down on the line. So it took a little bit of a time making sure everything was where it needed to be. And I mean, huge shout out to Sonia for like when I was sending her stuff, like when stuff was sent, she was just like, this actually is supposed to be here. And she was very meticulous on making sure that all of that was being followed. But for shooting, I think that we could have maybe on some of the shots tightened up a little bit. sometimes I was watching through the movie and I was just like, man, I feel, but then again, that's kind of the way that I feel. And this is a whole collaborative process. You know, Sonia has her vision, you have your vision, and I was there kind of lighting, but I was just like, man, I feel like this would have just been nice if we were able to go in a little bit. And I can't remember if we, like, what the discussions were there, but it's kind of funny going back and looking through and being like, why did we make that decision? Um, but that was it. I was just like, I would have liked some tighter shots of very specific things, or just having, like Jesse said, that extra option. So like when there is time to grab that one, opposed to, because we had a lot of different angles and we ran through the entire scene in those angles. I would say that that was something that we should have dropped. And moving forward, not do that. We need establishing shots at the beginning, maybe, absolutely. And it's nice to have those, but there were some scenes where we had it covered from three different angles through the whole scene. We were very luckily working with theater actors, except for me, and those theater actors had their lines absolutely down, and they like were able to do the performance very similarly and take direction very well. But instead of doing three different like angles, we could have been doing some cutting in. And so maybe prioritizing how the shooting was done. It would be my only thing. And that again is a collaborative. So it's not so much a note on you, just as in a general for the production, I think to give the edit more options, that would have been nice, I think.
Yeah, no, I totally agree because in hindsight, played it safe with a lot of things. Wanted to get sort of the same shots for every scene just to make sure we had at least something that was usable. Especially because it's kind of a lot of pressure. Because if I screw up, the whole thing's screwed up. So knowing that I'm able to hit the focus, especially now that I need reading glasses, can't see as good, it's close up. I was glad that to hear that the hitting the focus was done. Um, but yeah, it is a bit of a pressure because trying to do things a little bit safely and you kind of miss opportunities to maybe things do a little bit things differently and do a bit more creative stuff. But I just didn't want to be the one responsible for the downfall.
Mhm.
Which is totally fair when you're working, especially like on such a tight schedule, because we had such a tight schedule. You want to make sure that you get the coverage of the shots, but I mean, maybe that would be the hindsight thing is having like that more time to film, but you know, budgets, schedules, timelines, didn't a lot for more than 10 days in a row. We were lucky we got 10 days in a row. Um, Shout out to the homeowners who let us take over their entire house for 10 solid days. And that farm dog made my life so much better for the first few days, and then it stopped coming around, and I did take it personally. Thank you so much for being a part of this project. It's not quite done yet. We have a few more things that need to get done, but your guys' parts are pretty much wrapped up, and I really appreciate that. On set, we do a thing where we clap when it's the last act, like when the actor is has no more scenes and they're done for the rest of the movie. And so in a dorky fashion, I would like to give you guys a clap because you guys are technically officially done, I think, for the most part. So good
It's a
job.
wrap.
Thank
You're
you.
wrapped.
I hope there's no editing I left out.
It's getting
And
late. I'm clapping, so clapping.
and yeah, your baby. And with that, it's just it's overwhelming how emotional it can get when like you ask people to come onto a project and you say I have nothing to give you pretty much except for I'd really like your time. And Lawrence, I was able to become a lot closer with you over the process of this filming, especially with carpooling, which was super fun. I'll never forgive you for losing like 8 pounds when I gained like 4, so there's that. But and then working a long distance, like these are all things that were super crazy. Mailing a hard drive, which gave me heart palpitations, even though like I was certain, like I was like, it's bubble wrapped, everything is good. I have it backed up. Lawrence has a copy. Like there's no reason I should feel this kind of way.
The
But
only copy.
the only copy of the movie, of course. So thank you so much. I am so excited to work with all of you on other things, and because we're all so close of friends, I get to talk to you all the time anyways. So now I have a call to action, and
Mm, social media.
obviously it's for the red carpet premiere for Tough Love. Oh,
What's that say? June 18th. That's my birthday.
we did that on purpose, Dave.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's a birthday celebration because we knew you couldn't be there for the red carpet, and we were like,
Mhm.
gotta celebrate on Dave's birthday.
That is
Um,
tough love.
I actually, that is Tough Love. Actually, it would be nice if you could fly out. So we'll hopefully see you there.
I can't see it there.
But you can get your tickets. We have a Facebook page. We have a website. We will link it all there. And it's red carpet, and that means that you can dress up as much as you'd
Yeah.
like. There will be an actual red carpet. I have secured a red carpet.
Wow. Don't miss that.
I know. There's
What,
photography.
what are you stepping on right now, buddy? It's not red.
It's not a red carpet. Another time I was gonna say like there's this Parks and Rec episode where he puts the red carpet inside of his shoes so that he's always walking on red carpet, and I just think that's beautiful.
Tom
But
Haverford.
yeah, of course. And please come out because you guys haven't seen this movie before, and so you can here. I actually don't know when is the next opportunity for you to see it because we're gonna take it to festivals and we're gonna do a few different things, and we don't know where distribution's gonna go. So, if you're in Grand Prairie, or if you're in the surrounding areas of Grand Prairie and you have nothing to do June 18th, you can come to the Douglas J. That's at the NWP College, and watch a movie that was made in Grand Prairie with all local actors except for one who's from Edmonton, but all Alberta local, except for two who are from Fort St. John. That would really help us out. There's 300 tickets, and then if we sell those, then there's a balcony where there's 200 more tickets, and there's going to be a Q&A, and I'm going to be there, so you can come say hi.
I was just gonna say, Leanne, don't undersell it. It doesn't matter if they got nothing to do. I don't care if they're getting married. They got to drop what they're doing, and get their butts to that theater and watch.
Tough
How
Love.
many movies did we say have been filmed in Grand Prairie before? How many?
0.
Okay, so you gotta go. You gotta go. Your curiosity is piqued. Okay, so feed the curiosity by watching the movie.
And I can definitely say that if you made it to the end of this YouTube video, you have to come see it now.
Yeah, yeah. Or you've already seen it.
They're invested now, so
And Louwrens will be there too.
I will be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Louwrens and Leanne will be there because we live here. And because we want to see it in a theater.
Oh yeah. There's nothing like watching a movie that you made in the theater with an audience. It's it is like it is the feeling of watching or putting on a play for your parents, but like just multiplied by a billion.
I'm so nervous. I was like, I don't know if I can sit through the whole thing. Like, I already have like anxiety when it comes to watching like certain things. I can just envision myself creeping like lower and lower and lower in my seat just because like I would have so much, oh, I'm gonna have so much anxiety. Like, I can already feel the pressure because, like in a theater with other people. And I'm gonna watch it with other people in a theater. It's crazy to me. Makes me want to throw up in a fun way.
Confetti.
All right, we'll stop by saying bye. See you June 18th. Dave, wave. Thank you.
See you on my birthday.
Yeah.